If you want to read this particular article, get any of the links or the images or videos contained within it, just go to justinstellman.com/A30. Don't be lazy about learning. If I don't have any stimulation in my life, I go nuts. I go crazy. I always have to be learning. I'm a bit obsessive about it, actually, but I'm learning through meditation. It's actually a character flaw that I have. And what I've learned about myself is, in order for me to feel, quote, worthy, I feel like I need to know a lot of information. But through meditation and contemplation, I'm learning how to let all that stuff go. The difficulty of letting it go is that my business, i.e. writing this blog and doing a radio show, is I need to have new content and ideas to share. So I don't want to get complacent in learning. But learning is actually what humans naturally do. It's how we grow. If we have a new insight or a new reflection about something, it causes us to see a different perspective. Learning is actually built into our DNA. Humans are always looking to progress and to innovate. It's coded deeply into us on some sort of spiritual level. Meditation, though, is really helping me stay in the moment and to realize I don't need to have all the answers. I don't need to feel like I know everything. But I'm a bit obsessed with learning. I have an iPod Classic and it holds up to 160 gigs and it's completely full with lectures, podcasts, and audiobooks. I don't listen to or have listened to any music on it. I know it's a bit nuts, but I feel an insatiable desire to understand the mysteries of the universe. I want to know where we came from. I want to know where I'm going. I want to know what life is all about. I don't understand people who don't think like that. To me, there's so much to learn mentally, spiritually, and experientially that I could live 1,000 lifetimes and still not feel like I got it. I feel like there's just no time to waste. I want to learn it all. I want to know it all. I want to understand the world we live in. It's all I can ever think about. Where do we go when we die? Is there really a heaven or a hell? Is there a God? Is he or she the God that's described in the Bible? Do aliens exist? Is the earth flat or is it round? Is history true? What's really going on behind the scenes in the government? Why do I experience so many synchronicities every single day? Is there a reason behind them? I want to know the answers to those questions. So if you're reading this, you're probably the same way. Or if you're listening to this, you're probably the same way. When your friends are talking about the latest fashion trends or what Sally said about Becky, it probably makes you feel repulsed like it does me. Because I've always been a searcher and a dreamer. I've always sought after such things. When I was 15, I became a born-again Christian and I read the Bible cover to cover almost 4 times. I studied it also. I calculated the other day that for about 6 years, I attended an average of 7 or 8 Bible studies per week. That's over 1,800 Bible studies I attended in total, not counting drive time when I listened to even more Bible studies. That was when I was just a teenager. I wanted to understand the depths of this life and what it's all about. I'm the same way today, though, even though I've stepped away from Christianity. Currently, I read a couple books a month, which is not a lot by some standards, but it's better than nothing. I listen to about 3 hours of education, business, and personal development programs or podcasts and documentaries every single day. I usually listen and watch them about 1.5 speed. So I'll listen to them as I'm doing chores around the house, when I'm rebounding, when I'm in the sauna, doing my workouts, or while I'm driving and even walking the dogs. See, today we live in the age of information. If you're passionate about it, there's probably a podcast or a web show dedicated to it. It's really an exciting time to be alive, in my opinion. If you're passionate about knitting, for example, you can listen to dozens of podcasts all about knitting or turning knitting into a business. Most of what I've learned in my life comes out of my own passion and desire for personal growth and learning. I believe that's one of the biggest aspects of what schools should focus on, the love of learning, not just memorizing information. Learning is just so great because it immediately puts yourself in check. You can no longer have an ego about something you know nothing about. For example, I remember when I was first starting jiu-jitsu many years ago, there were guys who were 50 pounds less than I was, 20 years older, and 6 inches shorter, and they would handle me easily on the mat. I had no shot with these guys. I realized quickly I could not have an ego. I could have no pride. If somebody was smaller, older, and lighter than me, and they could do whatever they wanted with me on the mat, I had to dissolve that ego and to just learn. The same goes with any subject matter or skill. When you purposely put yourself in situations where you're a complete novice, there's only one thing available to you: grow. Not only is it extremely humbling, but it's great because you can track your progress and measure how much you're learning. I like to always try new things and expose myself to new information as much as I possibly can. Imagine how much you learn, for example, from the time that you're born to the time that you're 5. You learn how to walk, you learn how to eat, You learn how to communicate, how to go to the bathroom, how to manipulate adults to get what you want, and much more. If you were to quantify that amount of information you learned at that early age and then put it into a computer, it would take massive data centers to store all that you learned in those first 5 years of life. How much does the average person learn from, say, 35 to 40 or from ages 30 to 35? I would guess less than 5% compared to the ages of 0 to 5. So why is that? What's the reasoning behind that? We get used to what we know. We like our ruts. We don't like to be challenged. We don't like to have our ego put in check. But anything that's stagnant is dying, right? The main issue with regards to learning is that people feel like they've learned all there is to know about life. But in my opinion, there's always more to learn. Always. Look at politics, for example. You could study that for lifetimes and still not understand it all. Take religion or spirituality. These are lifelong pursuits. Once you learn the information, then you have to assimilate that information into your practical daily life. This becomes a whole new layer of experiential learning. It's one thing to learn the information, but learning how to apply that information into your life becomes a second pursuit, right? There are so many angles and so many perspectives you can take when attempting to learn some new information or skill. It's endless. Here are some things I want to learn about in the coming years. Survival skills, playing guitar, archery, chess, working with herbs, poker, kickboxing, contract law, sacred plant medicines. I think it would be really great to take each one of those on in a committed way and really dive into each of them. I want to learn the subtle nuances of each and every one of those disciplines. Life becomes so much more fun the more you open your mind and start learning new things. Not only does learning humble you and allow for a whole new side of you to grow, but it opens your world. It forces you to look at everything else in your life with fresh new eyes. You should always be a student. And sometimes the best way to learn is to teach. Whenever you're learning something, try to think what you will have to do to teach exactly what you're learning. This creates a situation where your mind becomes forced to take in the information more deeply. Make learning a lifelong passion. If you think learning is boring, you're probably thinking of it in the wrong context. You're thinking of learning from being in high school when you were young and forced to learn in a certain way. Find out how you learn best. That's my best advice. Some people like audio, which is why I do a podcast and record all of my articles into audio format. Some people like video, and some people simply like reading. I primarily like audio and video for me. Reading for me takes more effort, but I find it to be more relaxing and more rewarding. Once you've found how you learn best, then find books or people that you think are cool that are putting out that information. And this is a big deal. Learning is no fun if the presenter is boring, right? If you find that you're an audio learner, find a good podcast out there where you like the host and you love the subject matter. You'll be surprised at what you might learn in a day. I found information just comes at me from out of nowhere and it leads me down a whole new rabbit trail. When you have this perspective, every day is a new adventure, right? Because I expose myself to so many different kinds of information in a single day, I never know what new idea, concept, or website I'll get exposed to, which might end up changing my life. It's so much fun waking up with the hope of learning some new groundbreaking set of ideas that might come to you that day. It's amazing. Life becomes infinitely more fun this way, in my opinion. Learning is the beginning of wisdom. It's only through learning that we can create new things that will change not just our lives, but the lives of those around us. The iPod, for me, has been massive in my learning pursuits. I can listen to podcasts about business, about health, spirituality, personal development, success, marketing, and much more. You don't have to listen to it as much as I do, but I would encourage you to get an iPod or go to iTunes or Stitcher and start seeking out podcasts that you like. If you drive a lot, why not turn that time into a personal growth time? Turn your car into a mobile university. Don't be lazy in learning. Don't be lazy with how you spend your time. If you only have an hour a day where you can listen to an audiobook or podcast, but you love music, then listen to 45 minutes of a book on tape and then 15 minutes of music. The key is to find your sweet spot. Find that time where you can have both. So many people waste time these days. I'm not saying that listening to music is a waste of time, but these people might only listen to music while they drive and nothing else. If you love music that much, simply split that time with something educational. Remember the baby and how much it learns in its first 5 years. Look at how much it grows. It goes from not really knowing what's going on to manipulating their parents. It's really quite amazing when you think about that. I've found life to be incredibly rich and rewarding the more I learn. It's more exciting than it ever was when I didn't like learning at all. When I didn't like learning, I thought life was all figured out. I thought the world works in a specific way, and that was the way it was. That was so boring. But then I realized I was wrong, and life is unbelievably fascinating and mind-blowing, and it started to make learning so much more fun. As a result, living life became amazing because I was learning so much every single day. See, the path to changing your life starts with learning. It's inescapable. You have to learn the skills that are necessary for you to change your life. If you're stuck in the forest of your life, you need to learn how to navigate yourself out. You need to learn the skills to stay alive during your journey out of the matrix, right? You need to figure out which direction to go. You need to learn how to hunt and to sustain yourself while you learn how to get from point A to point B. If you want to stay where you are and not grow, then stop learning. If you don't want anything more than what you already have, then stop learning. If you're happy with what you have and don't want anything more for you or for your family, then stop learning. But if you want something different, you must learn the skills necessary to get you to where you want to go, and that comes from learning. But remember, the baby has no choice but to learn, because it can't remain a baby forever. If you want to read this article, check out any of the links or photos or videos in it, or leave a comment. Just go to justinstellman.com